Session 2 is all about bridging philosophy and science. And for this, we have three chairpersons, Dr. Satish M. Hambali, Dr. Bhargava Boddu, and Dr. BTC Murthy. I would like to invite all of them onto the dais. Dr. Satish M. Hambali, the Chief Medical Officer at K.H. Patil Institute of Naturopathy and Yogic Sciences. Dr. Bhargava Boddu, the Director of Patanjali Wellness Center, Hyderabad. And Professor Dr. BTC Murthy. Professor Dr. BTC Murthy is one of the most rewarded qualified yoga and naturopathy training, research, hospital administration, and establishment of new institutions of yoga and naturopathy, both in government and private sector. He started off his career from being the first professionally qualified doctor of NIN Pune from 2000 to 2005 to being the professionally qualified director of CCRYN New Delhi from 2004 to 2011. Before and after being the director of NIN and CCRYN, he has been serving as the principal of Yoga and Naturopathy Medical Colleges of SDM, Jindal, MM, and JSS, the first three as the founder principal. He has also served as the founder and principal of Jindal PG College of Yoga and Naturopathy. He has served more than 10 universities as the chairman, the member of Board of Studies, Senate member, examiner, PhD guide, convener of inspection committees, and the chairman of syllabus committee. He has also proven to be a remarkable physician and head of some of the best and most renowned clinical facilities of yoga and naturopathy, including Jindal Nature Cure Institute, Bangalore, Yovan Nature Cure Center in New York, Birla Yoga and Naturopathy Hospital, Pilani, and MSR Arogyalayam, Vijayawada. He has also written many articles and served as the editor of Yogic Prakritik Jeevan of CCRYN and Nisargopachar Varta of NIN in official capacities. He has also been a recipient of Karnataka State Rajyotsava Award 2006, Patanjali Gold Medal of Government of Karnataka 1992, Eminent Teacher Award of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences Bengaluru 2020, among many other accolades. It's a great honor to have you here, sir. Next, we have Dr. Satish M. Hambali, the Chief Medical Officer at K.H. Patil University of Naturopathy and Yogic Sciences. Dr. Satish M. Hambali is currently working as the Chief Medical Officer at K.H. Patil Institute of Naturopathy and Yogic Sciences, Hulakoti. Graduated BNYS from the second batch of SDM College of Naturopathy and Yogic Sciences and pursued Master of Sciences and Sexual Counseling from Kuvempu University, Shivamogga. With experience of more than 22 years in this field, trained in transactional analysis from George Kandahil, founder of TA Psychology India. He has also worked as a consultant counselor to various prestigious institutes like JC, Rajeshwari, Vaidyaniketan, etc. He works as a resource person for Department of Ayush, Gadak, Kopal, Balgota districts. He has written many articles in paper like Samyukta Karnataka, Kannada Prabha, Prajavani, and has been awarded the Best Physician Award from SDM Trust, Dharmasthala. It's an honor to have you here, sir. Next, we have Dr. Bhargava Boddu, the Director of Patanjali Wellness Center, Hyderabad. He is currently working as the Naturopathy Director for Patanjali Wellness Center, Hyderabad, a senior naturopath physician and lifestyle medicine specialist for more than 30 years of clinical and teaching experience, graduated from the Gandhi Naturopathic Medical College, Hyderabad, and lifestyle medicine program from Harvard Medical School, USA. He is an author of 3 books on naturopathy and integrated medicine, and also the reviewer for the clinical naturopathy book published by the NIN Pune. Glad to have you here, sir. I would request one of them to please carry ahead.
Everybody, I think some of the people are into deep meditation or yoga nidra because after having a good lunch, So let us all say good afternoon once again. Please, all of you. You know, the sound is less, you should make it more. So at least people who are in deep yoga nidra, they'll come out of it. Okay? I'm very happy to be here in this place, particularly to attend this international conference. Thank you, Dr. Raghavendra Rao Garu and Dr. Satyalakshmi ma'am, for two things. One thing is to give me an opportunity to attend this conference. And second thing is to arrange this beautiful conference, after a long, long time. And when we were studying almost some 32 years back, in each of our class, we used to be 5 to 10 people. So the entire college, we used to be some 30, 40 people. So I never seen a huge gathering of students like this, entire my career. So it is great to see hundreds of students coming from all over India to attend this conference. And I request Dr. Raghavendra Rao Garu and Dr. Satyalakshmi ma'am, please plan these conferences at least once in a year or maybe once in 2 years. So this makes, to meet all of us at one place to learn what is happening in the world. And not only that, the students, they get confidence. So the biggest problem in the naturopathy nowadays is, of course, there are a lot of things happening, but there are not many jobs in naturopathy field. And the youngsters, particularly the students and whomever they meet, sir, what is my future? I do naturopathy, but what can I do? There are no government jobs. The government doesn't encourage any, creating jobs in this field. And luckily in Tamil Nadu, we have Dr. Manoharan, who is doing a great work by creating hundreds of jobs. So I think each person from their state, and we have got all Enigma presidents and members in this gathering, maybe they should work with the governments, to talk to them, encourage them, create some policies where the students can come out and say, okay, we have a job. See, the biggest problem in India, when you see Ayurveda, homeopathy or modern medicine, these people can open a small shop and distribute medicines. But if you want to open a naturopathy clinic, you have to have all the paraphernalia, you should have all the equipment. Is it or not? And you should have manpower. And everybody may not be able to do that. So I think something should be thought in this regard. Now let us come to the beautiful topic on scientific basis, bridging philosophy and science. As we all know, there are a lot of theories of naturopathy, and most of them are Western based. Of course, in India, we have got Panchamahabhuta theory for naturopathy. We say that we use the Panchamahabhutas in treating the disease. And recently, for example, past 20 to 30 years, there are a lot of advances in technology and science which are proving these theories. For example, research on the microbiome, research on the leaky gut syndrome has proved that, the accumulation of morbid matter is one of the reasons for most of the diseases. Or the COVID epidemic has shown us that, people who have got a low vitality, they were mostly affected when compared to the people who had a good vitality. So we have got two great speakers for this session. Dr. Raghavendra Rao, who is the Director for Central Council for Research in Yoga and Naturopathy. I request and welcome Dr. Raghavendra Rao Garu. Please come to the stage. And we have Professor Dr. Pradeep Nair, Professor and Head Department of Research, Sant Hridayaram Medical College. I request Dr. Pradeep Nair, please come to the stage. Could you start? Thank you. So please give a biggest applause for both the speakers. I request Dr. Raghavendra Rao Garu, please start his speech on this. Thank you, sir.
So good afternoon, all of you. Can you all hear me? I can't hear you. Thank you. So when you go and look at websites, any Google, when you start Googling or going to Wikipedia, when you type the word naturopathy, you type the word any Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, homeopathy, the first thing you get on the page of Wikipedia is a pseudoscience. Okay? And there's nothing like pseudoscience. You either say it is scientific or you say it is non-scientific. You don't stand in between them. Because science is based on facts, it's based on proven theories, it is based on reproducibility and based on evidence. So there's nothing like pseudoscience at all. Or there's nothing like a term pseudoscientific at all. So let us try to understand what is the scientific basis of naturopathy principles today. And I'm sure some of you will be happy to hear about those as well. Next slide, please. I think I have a moment. Thank you. Is it moving? Yeah. So you all are familiar with this particular term which you see on the books of Henry Lindlar and Louis Quinet. It talks about what happened. Yeah, I think I need to point this way, not that way. So it talks about the causation of disease, unity of disease and unity of cure, talks about foreign matter theory, talks about toxemia theory, talks about encumbrance, talks about healing crisis, disease crisis, and it also talks about all diseases arise in the gut. Okay, and it also talks about what is the cure for all these things is nothing but elimination of toxins. So you see, these are the important principles and basic tenets and philosophical doctrines in naturopathy. And let us see how we can explain these things scientifically. Okay? And if you see when you start off with the causation of disease, I think this battery is low. It's not moving. Can you note the presentation, please? Okay. So when you start about causation of disease, I'll go ahead and start talking about it. Yeah. This slide, please. When you start talking about causation of disease, the first thing is on lowered vitality. So what do you mean by lowered vitality? So there are so many things and so many explanations to talk about lowered vitality. So all day in and day out, when you start consuming foods, there may be pesticides inside your food, there may be insecticide in your food, there may be natural toxins inside your food, there may be bacteria, there may be viruses, anything, right? And all these metabolic end products can cause damage to your tissues. They can damage the cellular DNA. But our body has the ability to repair the damage and become normal once again. The cells have the ability to repair the damage and become normal once again. This is called as DNA repair. And if this DNA repair is lower, that is when you start getting diseases. For a simple example I can give you is, take example of smokers. There are people who smoke for 4 years, 5 years, get cancer. There are people who smoke for 50 damn years, don't get cancer, they don't die only. Okay? And people use the same example. My grandfather smokes bidi chula from last 20, 30 years and nothing has happened to him. So why should I quit smoking? Damn, that is because he's got some very, very good genes which can repair the damage. So these are very important aspects to understand. Cellular DNA repair and how the repair mechanisms happen. And next one is somatic mutations cause cancer. We know the risk that for cancer, 40% of the cancers are caused due to environmental risks, tobacco, alcohol, smoking, diet, physical inactivity, obesity and whatnot. 60% occurs by chance. And one of the most important single risk factor for cancer is aging. As you grow old, your chance of getting cancer increases manifold. So that is one thing which you can't change because you have to grow old and that is a part of your life. And that itself causes a lot of these diseases. And third thing is epigenetic changes reduce immune senescence. So there are a lot of changes which also happen in your body which makes the immune system become numb. They don't fight effectively like it used to fight when you were a very child. When you are a small child, if you get small cold, cough, fever, it will go within 2 days. Now when you get cough, cold and fever, it won't go for a damn 1 week also. Right? So this is the kind of thing which happens. So there is immune dysregulation as you grow older as well. Then activation of some inflammatory cytokines and transcription factors which create inflammation in your system. And aging, again, which I talked to you about. Then malnutrition, which can cause, which can affect and impair the health as well. Okay, and these are very important aspects which are there, which can cause problems. Now you see the slide on the right. You can see here. You can see that there's a graph here. There is mutation occurring all throughout the life. But you can see the spurt of the age. As the age increases, the incidence of cancer also increases. Even though whatever mutations are occurring, it is same throughout. It occurs very young age itself. But you don't get cancer then. But you get cancer after 40 years, after 50 years. Why? Because that time your body's repair mechanisms go down. Immune system goes down. That is where you have the problem. And that is what is called lowered vitality. And the next example I want to give it from our own study which we did in cancer patients. So what we did was we took cancer patients, head and neck, lung cancer, breast cancer patients, solid tumors. Before they undergo chemotherapy, we looked at their nutritional status. What was their BMI? It was less than 18 or 18 to 23, about 23 or about 25. Okay, we'll measure their BMI. We measured their nutritional status. We measured their neutrophil lymphocyte ratio. We measured the platelet lymphocyte ratio. This is very important because if this is one marker, very good marker, cheapest marker in the blood, which can really detect mortality. If your neutrophil lymphocyte ratio is very high, that means to say that your body is tilting towards inflammation, and that has got a very important bearing on mortality in cancer patients. So what we found out was patients who had higher neutrophil lymphocyte ratio on the blue side, more of them had progressive disease. Chemotherapy did not have any effect on the cancer. They had a progressive disease after chemotherapy as well. Means the cancer grew by more than 25% when you did a PET CT scan after chemotherapy. So this is a study which we presented in Barcelona, Spain at the European Society for Medical Oncology. This is an oral presentation which we did in 2018. And this is my paper. And one of my PhD students was a clinical nutritionist. She did a PhD on this. And she also got an award also on this particular paper. So we showed that NLR ratio, inflammatory cytokine, is a very important marker, and this is what is called vitality. When your immune system is normal, you have no problem. When the immune system is on overdrive, that is where you have a problem. And this is a very simple example of vitality. So again, we also talk about abnormal composition of blood and lymph. Same thing. If neutrophils and lymphocytes, if lymphocytes should be in the larger number, neutrophils should be in the smaller number. But when you start having more number of neutrophils, lesser amount of lymphocytes, that becomes a problem. Because the innate immune responses doesn't know how to be tolerant. It goes and starts killing, starts producing macrophages, starts activating cytokines. It leads to inflammation. So this abnormal composition of blood and lymph, which call them as, is nothing but blood moving towards the inflammatory kind of cytokine. It's completely inflammatory mediators are there. And this can cause problem. This is how we can explain today in modern medicine. Okay. Next one you can see is the how this lowered vitality and abnormal composition can lead to mortality rates. You can see here in this graph that 30% of the mortality rates are seen in people who have high neutrophil lymphocyte ratio, more than that of those who have normal ones, indicating that almost 1/3 of the cancer patients die because of inflammation. If we don't regulate their inflammation, most of them die. The mortality rates are very, very high. And again, what is the accumulation of foreign matter? You take in food in and out, day in and day out. You don't give rest to your digestive system. It is always working. The liver is always working to remove the toxin. The kidney is always working to excrete the toxin, right? So all these things are already happening. You're not giving rest at all. So this metabolic end products is there. Energy is also released in the metabolism, and you're not using that energy. You are physically inactive, but you start hogging a lot of food. You eat a lot of food. You become obese. And this can cause accumulation of foreign matter in body. What is this foreign matter? Endogenous and exogenous. Endogenous is all produced inside the body itself. You have the metabolic end products of metabolism. You have the commensal bacteria, viruses, fungi and yeast which are already inside your gut, inside your system. And you have the exogenous ones which are called toxins in the food. So food also has natural toxins. We'll come to that later on. Adulterants, insecticides, pesticides, preservatives. All these things can also are called as foreign matter, and pathogenic bacteria, viruses, fungi and yeast as well. So this is nothing but a foreign matter theory which we can give an equivalence to these particular aspects. Now what is a commensal bacteria versus pathogenic bacteria? Now skin has got very nice microbial flora. It has got very good kind of bacteria which can have a protective layer on the skin. In a sense, it prevents colonization of harmful bacteria. It prevents colonization of harmful bacteria which can cause problems on your skin. So the skin should be hydrated, it should be moist. If you have a dry skin, it will get scald, it will get scaled, it will break and it will cause problems. It will be injury and it will lead to inflammation, skin diseases. So hydrating yourself better is very, very important to maintain skin health. Similarly, when in case of commensal bacteria in the gut, it maintains the integrity of the intestine, small intestine. The small intestine is one such organ in your body. We also call it, say that it's the largest immune organ in the body. The lymph nodes, bone marrow, they just are places for colonization of the immune cells. But the actual action takes place in your intestines. Takes place in your intestines. It's a very, very important immune tolerant organ. So much things you take inside, so much of bacteria goes inside, nothing happens. Why? There's a gut microbiome there. There's a gut bacteria which is colonizing there, prevents the colonization of the pathogenic bacteria, takes it out. Okay? And there's no damage to the lining of the intestine. So this is a very, very important defense mechanism. And they have shown that if this defense mechanism is affected, it can lead to so many diseases: migraine, Alzheimer's disease, cancers, diabetes, PCOS, and whatnot. So most of these diseases have been already implicated when this gut microbiome gets completely disturbed, okay, or disengaged, we can call them as. This is also called as dysbiosis. And you will hear more about it in the next session. And you can also find toxins in the food. For example, if you look at cyanogenic glycosides, you heard about cyanide, no? Cyanide poisoning. Do you know plants produce cyanide when they are injured? When you start beating a plant, injuring a plant, it produces a protective mechanism. It produces cyanide glycosides. And these are toxic to our body. And these are mostly seen in case of almonds, okay, dry fruits. And if you look at aquatic biotoxins, they are mostly produced by the seafoods, especially in the clams, in the oysters. Okay, fluorocormorants are produced in the citrus fruits, again lemon. Okay, bitter substances in lemon. If it is more injured, the plant is more injured while harvesting, fluorocormorants are there which can cause nausea, vomiting, can cause itching of the skin. And that's the reason some people during fasting have pruritus because of this reason. High amount of fluorocormorants. Okay, and again mycotoxins are also seen in molds and fungi which is already growing on the grains which are stored inside. So these are all called natural toxins which can really cause problem. Okay, they are already present in the foods. They are produced by the plants as a defense mechanism. Unfortunately, when we ingest it, they also enter into your body and cause problem. So what is the vicious cycle today here? So you have your gut has to be, integrity has to be maintained. You start taking in lot of foods which are junk. You take in alcohol, beverages, everything. This can affect the liver. It can cause overload on the liver because it can't really function. Effect of liver is to produce enzymes to chelate the toxins. Produces more of lipids so that it can neutralize the toxins. Okay, all the toxic substances which enter your body, they get deposited as fat. Mind you, keep this in mind. What are toxins go into your body? It may be lead, arsenic, mercury, whatever it is. Any sort of pesticide, any sort of insecticide. The only way to neutralize these toxins is to chelate them. How does it chelate? The liver starts producing more of LDL. The lipoproteins go bind to these toxins and neutralize them. And where do these lipoproteins go? They go to your fat. They get accumulated in your visceral fat. And that's how you have, when you have obesity, a lot of visceral fat, a lot of subcutaneous fat, they are filled with a lot of toxins. And that's the reason why when you do fasting and start trying to improve the organs of elimination, you have itching, you have rashes, etc. because these toxins are being expelled out. Okay? So you need to understand this kind of vicious cycle. So this will, when you have the toxin, when you have pain, etc., you start taking painkillers. Painkillers will reduce intestinal permeability. Again, this will cause more problems. More cytokines, inflammation is there and can cause more problems. So these are all foreign matter toxemia. These are kind of toxins which are there, endogenous, exogenous, which I told you. And what are your antitoxins? Nothing but your antioxidants, the minerals and your vitamins which are present in your plant, fruits and vegetables. Okay. So why this you don't see metabolic syndrome in animals? Okay, you may see metabolic syndrome in your own pet dogs, in your own pet kittens, because you overfeed them. But if you go see a stray cat or a stray dog, or you see something in the wild, they know what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, which we have forgotten, unfortunately. And they have their own methods of fasting, and they never get metabolic syndrome. Okay, even though they have the same genes which we have for metabolic syndrome, they never get it because they always fast. And here what happens here in metabolic syndrome, again you can see, you must have heard about people gaining weight after a surgery, right? Some people gain weight after a surgery, some people gain weight after an illness. That is because your bacterial flora in the gut can get disturbed completely and can lead to inflammatory cytokine and lead to obesity as well. So a lot of studies have been done on this area which can show that obesity is also a result of pathogenic bacteria as well. Okay? So again, obesity can cause so many problems. I won't go into that. And what is the markers of detoxification? There's so many markers you can see on urine and as well as in blood. And these can also be done in our naturopathy setting. We are not doing them now. And this is high time that we also start taking up these urine markers and blood markers during fasting. When a patient comes to a naturopathy center, we should do these kind of investigations. We have to assess them for the toxin overload and try to see how much of these toxins excretion is also happening from these systems by monitoring them. So this is a kind of a report you can get for looking at toxin overload in the body. Okay. Now there are different pathways in the liver. So the body has to detoxify. Liver has to detoxify. Kidneys have to excrete them. How is it possible? Very important aspect of this is more of fruit juices and vegetables, more of vitamins and trace elements and minerals. These are very much important for the liver to function. Phase 1, you have some of the enzymes, some of these which are required in the phase 1 detoxification. Some of them are required in the phase 2 detoxification. And this plays a very, very important role for the liver to really detoxify them. And this is a very, very important aspect. So this is what we need to understand. So it is not just that calorie restriction, only with water fasting it will happen. So having fruit juices, having more of multivitamins, having more of mineral compounds in your diet, all these things also play a very, very important role in hastening the elimination. Okay? Or hastening the elimination or detoxification from the liver. Okay. So this acute disease versus chronic disease, we call it as healing crisis and disease crisis. Acute disease is always an acute effort of the body to remove the foreign matter. So the immune system work is neutralize the bacteria, neutralize the toxin or a virus. Okay? If you can't neutralize, contain them. Example is tuberculosis. It doesn't go all over the lungs. It's there in one particular part of the lung because it's contained by the immune system. You can't kill the tubercle bacilli, you contain it, right? So this is what it happens. But when this, over a long time, when this pathogenic bacteria stays for a longer time, immune system starts fighting over a longer time, it leads to chronic inflammation, which is damaging to the health. Okay? So here, when we started talking about the modern medicine, we talk more on germ theory as compared to the microzymian theory, the Louis Pasteur's theory that germs are the primary cause of disease. But what was important was the soil terrain hypothesis by Anthony Béchamp. He said that germs won't come unless the soil is there for it to grow. Okay, he was very, very right. Okay, because a lot of studies are now coming up which shows very clearly that pathogenic bacteria alone cannot cause the problem. You require the correct kind of substrate for it to grow. A simple example here is like this. Look at heart disease. Okay, for example, if you see here, formation of biofilm, metabolic end products, bacterial toxins, yeast, fungi, molds, fermented waste, all the food you take, along with the gut bacteria, both of them combine to produce more of acetaldehydes. When acetaldehydes are produced more in your blood, what will happen? Liver has to produce more of enzymes. More enzymes are produced by liver, more LDL is produced by liver. They go bind the acetaldehyde to neutralize them. But the LDL with the acetaldehyde, it gets deposited in the vessels, blood vessels. It causes heart disease. It causes stiffening of the arteries. So there are a lot of mechanisms now, people are now coming up to understand how food and bacteria together in combination can cause a problem. And this is what we need to understand more scientifically. It is no more, though we may practice naturopathy, but we should understand why this is happening, how this is happening. This scientific understanding is very, very important for us. Okay. So all diseases begin in the gut. I won't go into these details because we all have more things to understand. All I want to say is that we have a very, very big intestine, almost 18 feet long. We are an intestine similar to that of a herbivore, just like a cow. Okay, so we are meant to be herbivores, not carnivores. Understand? We have been organically, evolutionary, we are meant to be herbivores, not carnivores. And because we started eating more meat and meat products, which we are not suitable for, we are having these problems. Okay, and more meat means what? More of fat. All fat, more toxins. Where do they store? As fat inside your body. So red meat is a no-no here. And this is what I want to tell you in this particular slide. I won't go into these things because we have Dr. Praveen and other people talking on this. So I won't go. There's again a very important aspect is stress on immune system. Not just your lifestyle and diet. Stress also dysregulates immune system, and it has got a very, very important bearing. And especially acute stress is protective. Chronic stress can cause derangement. Like allergy, hypersensitivity is there. Initially, the body will have clearance to pathogens. Later on will be allostasis. It will start adapting to the situation. And later on will be allostatic load where it becomes a norm. So this inflammation becomes a norm inside your body. So that becomes a problem when this happens. So all these are the pathways which affects the system. And here we can see all the herbal components, the food, the exercise, the yoga, all these things play a very, very important role in modulating the gut, the brain, immune axis, and this can help in improving health inside the body. So unity of cure is nothing but identify the cause, viral, bacterial toxins, and inflammation, reduce toxin overload, restore microbiome, eliminate toxins. And I just want to play a small video of this on how the scientific basis of naturopathy is there in this. What happened to this? It's not moving? Yeah. Can you just play this video, please? Just listen to this.
When you are sick, you usually lose your appetite. The same is true for your dog or your cat, or even for mice and flies. This appetite loss is part of a set of responses to infection, collectively known as sickness behavior. When you get an infection, there are two ways that your body gets damaged. First, the pathogen itself can cause damage. Second, our immune system, while fighting the infection, causes collateral damage by making toxic substances like reactive oxygen species or unfolded proteins. For nearly 50 years, scientists and doctors have wondered whether and how sickness behaviors affect the course of disease. To investigate the damage caused by the immune system, we infected some mice with the virus and others with bacteria, then fed them. The mice infected with bacteria died, whereas mice infected with virus survived. We next tried to figure out which food was the culprit, and we found that glucose was responsible for the effects of feeding during infection. When we blocked the ability of cells to use glucose with chemicals called 2DG and DMH, mice infected with bacteria now survived, and mice infected with the virus died. The exact opposite happened. Why does this happen? Cells need the right nutrients to perform certain tasks. So during an infection, what you eat controls what nutrients are available to your cells, and therefore what defense strategies they can employ. We found that in bacterial infections, cells need ketones to reduce toxic ROS accumulation. When fasting, ketones become available. In viral infections, however, cells need glucose to properly respond to unfolded proteins. When eating, glucose is abundant. Therefore, during a viral infection, eating provides glucose, which may be necessary for survival. Conversely, fasting leads to ketone production, which may help to survive a bacterial infection. This research suggests that different metabolic programs are coordinated with different types of infections in order to promote tissue tolerance. Our work may have implications for how we feed infected patients in the intensive care units, and suggests that when you get an infection, what you do and don't feel like eating may be your body's way of telling you how best to survive the illness. For more information, please read our paper in the
So what is important here is when you have what sort of diet you need to do in a viral infection, what sort of diet you need to do in a bacterial infection. In a viral infection, more of protein and carbohydrate rich diet, dal, khichdi, nuts, pulses, carbohydrates, fruits, citrus fruits and cereals. Whereas in case of a bacterial infection, vitamin supplements from vegetable soups, fasting and calorie restriction. So have ketone bodies develop inside your body so that it can help in taking care of the bacterial infection. So we need to develop all the ways and scientific understanding of our naturopathic dogmas and principles and use them effectively. Already these things are already done. A lot of research is already done on this. Now, unfortunately, we are not using this in our regular practice, and this is the time that we need to start doing this. And I thank all of you for giving a very honest hearing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the presentation, sir. Now I'd like to invite Dr. BTC Murthy to please felicitate Dr. Raghavendra Rao.
Namaste. Once again, there is no voice. Namaste to one and all. Let me first wish a happy Naturopathy Day to one and all. And I am very happy to introduce Professor Dr. Pradeep M.K. Nair, a bright chap, very intelligent chap, and does lot of research activities. Not only he is intellectual, but he spreads his intelligence to others also by conducting lot of virtual meetings and virtual classes on research methodology and all. I think much of the students who have been here must be his students virtually. So I am honored to introduce Dr. Pradeep M.K. Nair, Professor and HOD of Research at Sant Hridayaram Medical College of Naturopathy and Yogic Sciences for Women, Bhopal, and Director of the Indian Academy of Scientific Writing and Research, Pune. Already he has written one book about research methodology and naturopathy, and when we were sitting there, I think the second book is going to come on holistic living. That's what I heard. Very good. He was the first head of the Research and Development Department of the NIN, Government of India, has worked in various collaborative research projects. He has authored more than 35 research papers. Please listen, all the students. 35 research papers. A big applause to him. Please clap. And all these papers are well received in international journals as well as national journals, and served as a reviewer for nearly 14 international journals also. He is an in the editorial board of Indian Journal of Naturopathy and Yogic Science, published by CCROIN, Ministry of Ayush. His research areas of interest includes epistemology, naturopathy, fasting, biorhythms, gut flora, medical ozone therapy, public health. He works as a research consultant for various organizations of repute. So, with all these great words, I introduce Dr. Pradeep M.K. Nair to you all. Pradeep, now the stage is yours. Please come.
Esteemed colleagues, my teachers and my dear students. Raghavendra sir has given an excellent presentation on what are the basics of the scientific evidence behind our naturopathy philosophies. The one thing which always was fascinating me, or something which makes us feel less confident, is the lack of control over our philosophies what we have. So we learned the philosophies without much seriousness because it just passed away in the first and second year, and we don't feel the importance of philosophy while we come into the therapeutics and the other modern medical system take over our brain, and we want to mimic like a modern medical physician. So even though we call ourselves as a holistic physician, we are more reductionist than any reductionist physicians in the world, because what we see, like, often we'll come and ask, what are the yoga protocols best for hypertension? What are the yoga protocols or naturopathy treatments best for diabetes mellitus? If we look into this thing, we are just substituting metformin, or we are just substituting some medications, and we are not becoming a system or a practitioner who has a philosophical background or strength for ourselves. And if you look at the other systems of medicine, every system of medicine has their own philosophy which supports it. Modern medicine has a staunch reductionist philosophy. Ayurveda has its own Tridosha philosophy, and Siddha has its own philosophy, homeopathy has its own philosophy. And what we do is, like, we just practice therapies. That is why we are easily replaceable. So if you understand the basics behind our prescription making, that makes us a better naturopathy and yoga physician. And today I would like to present something on unity of disease and unity of cure, one of the most abused concept, I would say, because we make our own rationale out of unity of disease and unity of cure. And whenever there is a philosophy, there should be a clinical application for the philosophy. Otherwise, philosophy will be just a textbook page, which will be just good for fetching marks. So, if you see, unity of disease and unity of cure is one of the most important principle which drive the entire prescription making of naturopathy. And there are a lot of explanation of unity of disease and unity of cure, as I told. And one of the most popular explanation, which we all wrote in our PNC exam, is there are many manifestations of a disease, but only one cause for all of them. This is accepted by everyone because it is very convenient to accept, because it is very easy. Diabetes, give hip bath. Hypertension, give hip bath. Whatever disease you are coming, give the same treatment. That is what we understand about unity of disease and unity of cure. But is it really something like that? And if you see naturopathy, how it differs from other system of medicine, like John has been explaining it very well, because we do not consider disease as a separate entity altogether. We can name it hypertension, AIDS, whatever disease you want to name, but we do not separate that particular disease from a person like how modern medicine do or other system of medicine do. He'll be just saying he's a hypertensive individual or he's a diabetic individual, but he's a person with a condition which is either a physiological disarray or a pathological disarray, which need to be addressed with its own sense. And that is why we are called as more of an individualistic physician, rather than just treating everyone with the same treatment methods or treating everyone with the same therapeutic prescription. And if you see the overwhelming modern medical approach, like because we learned the philosophy in the first year, the second year we get into the Robbins and Hashmohan pocket textbook, which will be rusting our brain. In the third year when you go, you have modern diagnosis, you are more fascinated because we want to become a modern medical doctor, and we unfortunately came to naturopathy doctor, most of us. And then what happens when you come to the therapy part of it, you are very much comfortable to introduce yourself as an acupuncturist or a nutritionist or a yoga consultant or anything. We don't combine these together, and we do not understand why these are combined this together. That is why it remains as a textbook philosophy. In order to understand the unity of disease and unity of cure, we need to just go back to the fundamentals of naturopathy philosophy, that is treat the cause and treat the whole person. So treat the cause doesn't mean if it is diabetes, it is the insulin resistance. Treat the cause is much beyond that particular level. And this treat the whole person means looking into all the dimensions of life. Now, when you see the all dimension, because in community medicine we have learned about health is defined as all the planes of being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. But still we are, if a diabetes patient is coming to a naturopathy hospital, we are still treating their blood sugar level, not their social status, not their mental status, or not their spiritual status. Because we feel that that is untreatable. It is very difficult or it is very complex to deal with this particular condition. So this treat the cause is not what we just misunderstand in terms of the pathological causation of a disease. This treat the cause is much beyond that. For example, usually if you get a RA disease patient, you will be seeing that reduction in an RA factor or the inflammatory marker will be something which is an achievable result for us. We have treated the root cause, that is RA factor is less, but it is not in that way. So if you see evidence link long-standing fight or flight mechanism that modulates tissue function and stress. Just for example, we all are sitting here from morning, and conference is a very tedious process. We got to concentrate for a longer time. You are in a flight or fight mode. As of now, you all have some sort of stress. You have to go back, you have to roam around Pune, take selfies around this particular beautiful building. These are something which is back of your mind, but you're still sitting here, but there is a flight or fight mechanism which is there in your brain. When this flight or fight mechanism continues for a longer time, let it be the fear of disease, what we call abhinivesha in yoga, or let it be overwhelming health consciousness. All these induce certain sort of stress in our body, and that will be triggering some sort of the disease inside the body. And how we will understand this particular individual perspective? Because the stress which I am just saying, it is very much individualistic. Everyone will not have the same level of stress. Everyone will not have the same level of resilience capacity, that is to cope up against that particular thing. And this particular flight or fight mechanism, for example, COVID-19 came, sir was telling smoking. The people who smoke for 4 years die. Those who smoke for 15 years does not die. Is it something very much individualistic to that person, or we want to have a blanket answer for that particular question? If you want to have a blanket answer of that particular question, we will say he is lucky. But if you want to go into a individualistic perspective of that particular thing, that person have some underlying resilience capacity that we can identify in each of our patient. And that is what the skill of a physician is, your art of case taking. When a patient is coming to you, how we can drill out those individualistic perceptions in that particular patient and address those root cause. And all these things that I am speaking is there available, published in published literature. And finding the rationale or the evidence base of philosophy is not something which you are getting in a published format. You have to connect the dots. That is how each of you become a individual scientist when you are treating a particular patient. And now, if you see forward, if you want to understand the unity of disease and unity of cure, there are basically 4 levels which is been there while we reaching the root cause of a disease. What we see superficially is the disease. You can name it any disease, let it be hypertension, diabetes, COVID-19, whatever it may be. So that is a superficial form of that. And under that, we have the physiological changes. Physiological changes may be inflammatory marker rise, or you are getting some kind of inflammatory signs, or you are having some changes of biomarkers in the body. These are the physiological changes. Most of our interventions are limited to that physiological level. But if you still go down, there is something called environmental factors, which we are very much inclined to, correcting the lifestyle, like walking, having good diet, exposed to sunlight. Many of you might be seeing, even after having a good diet, even after having a good sunlight exposure, and taking treatment in Jindal Hospital free of cost every year, still you die of a heart attack. Is there something individualistic to that person, or sunlight or diet therapy is bad? Sunlight or diet therapy is never bad. But how that individual person is perceiving that sunlight, what is happening within him, that is the individualistic factors within him does matters when we are treating a particular person. Now when we say these individualistic factors, what are those individualistic factors? This individualistic factors is identified in almost all the type of systems which we are trying to treat. And if you say musculoskeletal disorders, how you get a neck pain if you are in a deep grief or you are having some sort of sorrow, the first thing to change in your body is your muscular posture. And when you droop for a longer time, you tend to get a neck pain. Or it can be the individualistic perception like injustice. These are published evidence from leading psychiatry journals. When you have a feeling of injustice, like 20 people have been brought to that conference, 30 people are staying in the college. Or you are not having a jacket, I am having a jacket. Or you are posted to a place where you do not like. Or you are doing a job which you don't like. Or you are living with a person who you don't like. Or you have just got a relationship failure. So these are the feeling of injustice. This is not very much perceivable when you just ask a person, because the patient does not consider this as a reason for his disease, because he has never been told that this could be a reason for the disease. Because when a patient is coming to you, we'll bring your X-ray, bring your MRI, check your blood reports. We are directing the patient's brain to that blood reports and MRI reports, and we are never looking into the individualistic perspective of that particular person. As a person who is normal for 20 years suddenly getting constipation or suddenly getting a varicose vein, it may not be just the reason for the losing the elasticity of the vein. The reason may be he might be posted to a place where he is not liking. We have seen a lot of patients in Arogya Kendra where they come, where we just inquire and we find every person has a story to tell. That is what naturopathy is so special about. And if you see, this is just for musculoskeletal disorder. There is a mounting body of evidence which suggests that personality traits, how you treat a condition. If I say there is very much big crowd for dinner, how you feel at that particular point of time, every person perceives it differently. The personality traits decides whether you get a musculoskeletal disease or not. So when you are treating a musculoskeletal person, if you are not treating the individualistic perception of that patient, you will just remain as a symptom treater. You will be a disease manager, not a healthcare provider. And similarly, if you see the obstetrics and gynecological disorder, a lot of female students are over here. The obstetrics and gynecological disorder starts from the moment when you are getting a menarche. If I ask to most of the girls, I have asked this question in my classroom, how do you feel about your menstruation? Can you explain one word about your menstruation? Most of the people, that's 3 days are very bad for me, it's painful, I do not want to get into that particular stuff, and it is very much painful and I'm very conscious, I'm not having mood swings and all those things. So you never perceive this menarche or related associated things as a problem. So that is the first individualist thing which is leading. And this is not just my imagination, this is very much published evidence. And this perception increased with the cultural ethos, because menstruation is treated in a different way in different culture. You are not supposed to touch something, you are not supposed to come inside the house. This creates a kind of indifference and injustice feeling in the females. And also if you see the sexual abuse or any kind of physical abuse during the early childhood, which can develop as a gynecological disorder. There is a causal association between these two factors. And also, if you see most of the women, this is a beautiful study, the last slide, P. et al., where they have beautifully explained how there are 9 types of fear factors in pregnant women, which can lead to different kinds of obstetrical disorders in their later childhood. The fear of childbearing, or over glorification of motherhood, or forcing you to just cut down from your socio-economic status, what you are already being in. These all are kind of things which is going to develop disease for you. Other than that, adverse childhood experience like neglect. If you are neglected in your childhood, or domestic violence at home, mental health issues in parents, these all can lead to some or the other gynecological and obstetric disorders in the later stage of life. So whenever a patient is coming with a hypertensive disorder or a gynecological disorder like polymenorrhea, amenorrhea, any condition to you, you are not going to just check the hormone and make it correct. You have to just go dig in deep and find what is that individual reason which has forced that person, suddenly the hormone is behaving abnormally. And if you see, other than this, there are a lot of socio factors. It is called psychosocial factors. If you see during the pregnancy, if you receive a poor antenatal care, your husband being unemployed or you yourself being unemployed, illiterate husband or unemployed husband, being a homemaker, and discontentedness and lack of proper care from the in-laws or those who are near to. These are something which is going to lead to lot of psychological distress for the women. So if you are going to treat psychological distress just like something, because stress is different for different person. When we don't understand that, we cannot treat the root cause for that particular condition. And if you see the other stuff in terms of cardiometabolic factors, I'm just placing the evidence in front of you so that you can see how beautiful our philosophies are being built. Only thing, we are not seeing the evidence out there and we are not owning the evidence and we are not saying it out. If we are not saying this, nobody is going to say, because as John told, you have to change the name of naturopathy into lifestyle medicine if you want to publish something in a paper. Until and unless we show that our thing is very much evidence based. And if you see, we all say that in modern advertisement, elevated cholesterol level, elevated blood sugar, high LDL levels are going to be a risk factor for coronary artery diseases. But large-scale epidemiological studies suggest in the other way. There are no link between LDL, cholesterol or dietary cholesterol per se. The moment a hypertension patient is coming to you, the common standard advice in our hospital is, aapko cholesterol kam khana hai. You should eat less cholesterol. There is no link between that. This is just notions which is being present in our mind. But more than that, how we perceive a stress, how we understand a stress which can take the changes in the body. Our body is not becoming hypertensive or having a coronary block on a single day. It is a precipitation of 20 years, 30 years, what you make, and you need to remove all those 20 years suppression, distress, if at all you want to remove the root cause. And that is why we are famous and we are paid a lot for saying all this to patients when they are asked for it. And if you see, taking abstract concepts as a wholesome thing, for example, elevated blood sugar. Most of us are so obsessed behind elevated blood sugar. It is just an abstract concept in the entire diabetic spectrum. Diabetes is just not elevated blood sugar level. You have seen patients with 190, 240 blood sugar, but nothing, don't have any symptoms in them. This has been criticized, and this is a Lancet publication, whether considering the elevated blood sugar is a categorical error. There is nothing called good blood sugar or bad blood sugar. It is about whenever you have a blood sugar high, how you perceive it or how you run it through your body and mind, that definitely adds to the value to how you are going to treat a diabetic patient. So you are not treating a diabetic patient, you are treating a person for his experiences, which is pluralistic, which is complex, and which is interlinked with multiple planes of being, like his workplace, his social determinants, or his environmental determinants. These are the areas which we need to basically look into. And also, high level of emotional instability also can lead to certain level of cardiovascular diseases. And one of the most famous topic is infectious disorders. We all were behind that shorts for infectious disorder, but germs do not cause disease. In the first year, we write in PNC and we'll forget it, and we will study in pathology textbook that germs cause disease. And we are so much behind all the germs and viruses, they don't even know that we are behind them. So germs do not cause disease, but they will become pathogenic when provided a proper atmosphere. You have done microbiology practicals in your classrooms. The E. coli does not grow in your chapati. E. coli grow in agar plate. So E. coli needs agar medium inside your body. If your E. coli is coming from your intestine to your urethral canal, that means urethral canal has suddenly become favorable for E. coli. That is why you are getting an UTI. So what we need to do is not kill the E. coli, because E. coli is a commensal bacteria which has a lot of role to play. You should not kill the E. coli. You should make the urinary bladder not conducive for E. coli to grow. E. coli should be restricted till your intestines. This is what happens. Everyone has HIV, everyone has COVID-19, every one of us has every 99% of germs within us, but how we are treating our germs. Using a lot of savlons, using sanitizer to clean your face, this is going to have a germ-fiery atmosphere, which is fearsome for us. That is why we are getting a lot of diseases, because sir has shown that how much commensal bacteria and other protozoas are there in our body, which is required for our functions. And if you move, and gastrointestinal disorders, we all know, and we learn this, gut is the mother of all disease, or constipation is the mother of all disease. This is what we learn in our medical schools. But when you just look into deep into it, it is more of your anger, frustration, your kind of the kind of acidity or the kind of hyperemia which happens in the intestinal mucosa is just because of the kind of personality you have and the kind of reaction you produce against certain aspect. So finally, how to apply this unity of disease and unity of cure into clinical application when you see? We will be giving the same treatments, we will be consulting the same patients, but the approach will be different. We are going to consider each patient separately. First thing is to identify what is the unity of disease. Unity of disease is unity of individual factors in each person. That individual factor is different for each person. So understand what is that individual factor in that particular person. Drive your entire treatments. If you want to give yoga to bring in parasympathetic dominance, you can well do. But you should understand why you are doing that yoga therapy for that particular patient. So this is how unity of disease and unity of care can be very well applied in you're treating your disease, and this paper is just get accepted. It is under consideration for review in Integrative Medicine Journal, where we have proposed this mechanism, but I'll happy to share if anyone needs this personally for your clinical practice. And to understand more about all these concepts, you can buy my book, which is available on different online platforms. And thank you so much, Raghavendra, also for this opportunity, and I hope you enjoyed the talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Bhargava Buddu to please felicitate Dr. Pradeep M.K. Nair. Thank you so much to all these speakers and chairpersons. Now we'd like to call upon Dr. Sarang Patil to felicitate Dr. Satish. Dr. Sarang Patil. Yes. Next, I'd like to call upon Dr. Jay Kumar to Thank you so much, sir. Next, I would like to call upon Dr. S. Thank you so much to all these speakers and the chairperson. Here we come to the end of session 2 of Bridging Philosophy and Science. A huge round of applause for all the speakers once again.